I read this tale a few years ago from Our Glitch in the Matrix. It's quite creepy because it's very possible. I'm Brandy from Story Stories, and this is A Parallel Life Awoken by a Lamp. This was a post made on Reddit by You Tempt to Tass Soon. Tass meaning to take a drink. This person made a throwaway account and is most likely Scottish. Throwaway account because this is really personal. My last semester at a certain college, I was assaulted by a football player for walking where he was trying to drive. Note, he was 325 pounds and I was 120 pounds. While unconscious on the ground, I lived a different life. I met a wonderful young lady. She made my heart skip and my face turn red. I pursued her for months and dispatched a few jerk boyfriends before I finally won her over. And after 2 years, we got married, and almost immediately she bore me a daughter. I had a great job, and my wife didn't have to work outside of the house. When my daughter was 2, she, my wife, bore me a son. My son was the joy of my life. I would walk into his room every morning before I left for work and doted on him and my daughter. One day, while sitting on the couch, I noticed that the perspective of the lamp was odd, like inverted. It was still in 3D, but just wrong. It was a square lamp base, red with gold trim on 4 legs, and a white square shade. I was transfixed. I couldn't look away from it. I stayed up all night staring at it. The next morning, I didn't go to work. Something was just not right about that lamp. I stopped eating. I left the couch only to use the bathroom at first. Soon, I stopped that too, and I wasn't eating or drinking. I stared at the lamp for 3 days before my wife got really worried. She had someone come and try to talk to me. By this time, my cognizance was breaking up, and my wife was freaking out. She took the kids to her mother's house just before I had an epiphany. The lamp is not real. The house is not real. My wife, my kids, none of that is real. The last 10 years of my life are not real. The lamp started to grow wider and deeper. It was still inverted dimensions. It took up my entire perspective, and all I could see was red. I heard voices, screams, all kinds of weird noises, and I became aware of pain. A lot of pain. The first words I said were, "I'm missing teeth," and opened my eyes. I was laying on my back on the sidewalk, surrounded by people that I didn't know. Lots were freaking out. I was completely confused. At some point, a cop scooped me up, walked me across the sidewalk and grass, and threw me face down in the back of a cop car. I was still confused. I was taken to the hospital by the cop. Seems he didn't want to wait for the ambulance to arrive and give CT scans and stuff. I went through about 3 years of horrid depression. I was grieving the loss of my wife and children and dealing with the knowledge that they never existed. I was scared that I was going insane, and as I would cry myself to sleep, hoping I would see her in my dreams. I never have, but sometimes I see my son. Usually just a glimpse out of my peripheral vision. He is perpetually 5 years old, and I can never hear what he says. I want to talk a little bit about what can make all of this happen in the brain. So, your brain, when you go to sleep, the whole point of sleep is to clean your brain. And cerebral spinal fluid goes up into the brain and then cleans it all night. And the reason you get drowsy sometimes when you wake up is if you're in the middle of a sleep cycle, not all of the fluid is left. So you're just kind of like drowsy for a minute until all of the cleaning things and the cleaning fluid leave your brain. The other thing that can happen, they proved recently, I believe in 2019, DMT was synthesized in the mammalian brain, specifically in rodents under stress. So they are starting to more accept and believe that it is likely that when our brains are hurt, DMT is produced because it increases neurogenesis. They think that the brain produces it when it's hurt to fix whatever's going on. Same sort of thing with, melatonin has a similar structure to DMT, which is why they also believe melatonin's responsible for dreams, because they're very similar. There's also a cascade of effects that happen other than your body putting itself to sleep to clean the brain. Usually any head trauma is bad just because that's our computer, and messing up the computer, any number of neurotransmitter production amounts might be changed forever. And then, you either have to supplement or get on a medication to stop it from producing too much. The most likely thing that our anon experienced was a problem with his catecholamine and dopamine bell curve. This is frequently seen after TBIs. This is a graph showing the prevalence of psychiatric disorders post-TBI or traumatic brain injury, like a concussion or what our anon posted about. The most common symptom is agitation, followed by cognitive disorders such as ADHD, memory loss, forgetfulness, that sort of thing. 61% had depression, and it goes on and so forth. But those are the three most common that people experience long term because of the cascading neurotransmitter changes.